My name is Jake. Welcome to the channel. Is the FIRE movement dead? Have you noticed that nearly every article or video talking about the FIRE movement is negative lately? Almost all of the articles and videos talking about the FIRE movement being dead are from people who never actually achieved FIRE. I want to share a different perspective on the topic as someone who actually reached financial independence and retired early. I retired from my 9-to-5 corporate job in 2023 at the age of 37. I reached what is called barista FIRE. I live off my investments and make YouTube videos, which generate a little bit of income. Now, someone could say, well, I never retired early because I'm still doing something that generates money. I don't consider YouTube as a job like many other YouTube channels that you might be following, so I don't really see myself as working, more in the traditional sense, I guess. And I'm also not a barista at a coffee shop. It really is more of a hobby for me. I went from working over 40 hours a week at my day job to spending just a few hours a week making YouTube videos for all of you. The YouTube income that I generate accounts for less than 10% of our annual income. So my wife fully retired with me from her corporate job in 2025 at the age of 39. So when I say that we reached FIRE, I really mean that we reached FIRE. My wife and I pursued a different path than the traditional FIRE movement. Instead of amassing a portfolio 25 times our annual expenses with one index fund, we pursued reaching financial independence with dividend investing. So instead of selling a portion of our portfolio each year, we live off the dividend income from our dividend portfolio. I started intentionally pursuing financial independence in 2018 at the age of 32. So I originally thought that it would take us about 10 to 20 years before we would reach financial independence. While working towards FIRE, I would often think to myself that this was only possible for those more fortunate than myself. I'd be lying if I didn't have doubts or from time to time feel discouraged. Despite those natural feelings of doubt and discouragement, I never gave up. I never let someone tell me I couldn't do it. I never listened to the naysayers, even when the naysayers were within myself. I never let someone say that it was impossible. Today, when you search on YouTube, the FIRE movement, the first results are all talking negatively about FIRE. This was not the case at all just a few years ago. So why after such a short period of time is everyone saying the FIRE movement is dead? I've thought about this question for quite some time, and I really believe it comes down to this simple reality. And that is that negativity generates more clicks. Platforms like YouTube and other media outlets survive on clicks, and the unfortunate reality is that talking negatively about something will spark an emotion and drive someone to click more than something that is uplifting. And those people creating content see what generates clicks and will immediately jump on the bandwagon and start only making content, whether in article form or in video form, that is, what's being promoted. And this is sadly how social media companies incentivize behaviors. Now, I will admit that this may seem like a little bit of an oversimplification given the fact that the world really has changed since 2020. With cumulative inflation nearing 25% since 2020, and AI changing the dynamic of how people work and increasing job insecurity for workers. So what are people saying about why they think the FIRE movement is dead?
Why do you guys think the FIRE movement died?
Yeah, I think the FIRE movement was a product of the financial crisis and the aftermath of it, when unemployment was high and people didn't have very much money, to in a pretty reasonable way be like, well, how can I build a good life with as little money as possible, because I have so little to begin with, and the unemployment rate's 10%, so I might as well try to figure it out. And that was so appealing to people. I think it was like the pendulum swinging in the other direction from the housing bubble years, where it was like, if you want to build a good life, you just have to be rich. You have to flip houses and you have to be a multimillionaire, and that's what you need to do. that the pendulum just went the other direction. But a lot of that too were the people who actually achieved FIRE. I think so many of them
Achieved FIRE. It's such a dumb phrase.
I know. Thank you. But I think so many of them after 6 months were bored, and they realized that like the idea of like, oh, I'm going to retire at 28 and then just go like do watercolors or whatever for the rest of the day. Like that's not a good life at all.
All right. That's funny. I have a competing hypothesis. I do genuinely believe that some people did retire for the right reasons because they genuinely enjoyed everything else that life had to offer, and they did it like in the happy way. I'm sure that a good portion of these people were miserable with their job and they said, I just can't take it anymore. But I'd be curious to know, and I don't know if there are like these numbers, there's no like repository for people that are retired early at 30 years old. But I do wonder if the movement is still as alive as it ever has been, except journalists don't talk about it anymore because the degens are so much more exciting to cover. Wouldn't that be interesting?
I don't know. I think the biggest thing is a lot of those people who did it were bored. And like, I don't know many people who actually did it to begin with, but of the few that I do, every one of them is back to work. And you just hinted at this. Their aspiration to achieve FIRE was that they hated their job. They hated it. And they're like, I can't wait to get out of here. But that wasn't because they didn't want to work. They just hated that job. For the vast majority of people, what is going to give them purpose and make them feel good about themselves is waking up every morning and going to work and being productive and contributing to society. That's what you want to do. And you take that away for more than about 6 months, most people will lose their minds. And so I think that was the biggest portion of it.
When I watch this short clip, it stirs up a few emotions in me as someone who actually reached FIRE. The main point the person is making is that he would be bored in early retirement, so he assumes that would be the case for every person. He's projecting onto others his own opinions and biases. When he said that most people will be happy by waking up and going to work is true for some people, but not for a lot of other people. I'm sure that people waking up at 5 a.m. to go sit in traffic for an hour and a half, to sit behind a desk all day, and then leave the office when it's dark outside, and sit in traffic for another 1.5 hours to get home at 8 o'clock at night, only to go to bed an hour later just to do it all over again the next day, sounds like a nightmare for a lot of people. And not to mention paying outlandish prices for someone else to watch your kids, raise your kids, and only for you to see them an hour a day and on weekends, all while your body erodes away from the unhealthy lifestyle. What I just described is the modern day equivalent of working in the coal mine in the early 1900s. Could you imagine someone back in the early 1900s saying, what will really make you happy is waking up early every morning and going to work in the coal mine? Now, I'm sure at that time that was the acceptable truth. I think a lot of people are asking the question today, how do I really want to live my life? And are realizing that they want to live a different life. By not participating in what society would deem as normal, you can still contribute and do good in the world without having a traditional 9-to-5 job. You can still be productive and live a meaningful life. Your life will just be a little different. I believe the negativity surrounding the FIRE movement generates cliques and helps form a sense of groupthink among those who want to reassure themselves that it's okay to be normal and want to live a normal life as socially defined by what's normal of the time. There's nothing wrong with this if you want to be normal. I also believe that the FIRE movement is evolving and becoming something more than just a fad that nerdy engineers try and pursue. In fact, the FIRE movement has always had competing opinions on how to actually achieve financial independence. Many early adopters of the FIRE movement pursued FIRE by amassing a small real estate empire and living off the rental income from that real estate investment portfolio. A smaller subset of people pursued this goal with dividend investing or other passive income strategies. The prevailing thought has been widely accepted by using J.L. Collins and the simple path to wealth approach by leveraging VTSAX or VTI, the total US stock market index fund, and selling 4% of your portfolio each year in retirement. I pursued FIRE because I wanted to live a different life. I wanted to live life on my terms and not on someone else's terms. It started by having choices and creating my own FU money, but at the end of the day, it has always been about freedom. The freedom to choose what I do with my time. I can honestly say, now having reached financial independence and retired early 3 years ago, that this has not changed. I often find myself amazed at the life that I am now living compared to just a few years ago. The grind to get where I'm at today was a long one, but I would do it over again in a heartbeat. Whether the FIRE movement is dead or not is entirely in the eye of the beholder. For me, the FIRE movement has never been more alive. The most important thing to consider when pursuing financial independence and wanting to retire early is that you're retiring to something and not from something. This is the cornerstone of living a happy life in early retirement. Retiring to something, not from something. I've not only heard this from others, but have actually lived it myself, and I can say honestly that this is true. Early retirement is not the end, it's the beginning.
Please subscribe.
Subscribe.
Please subscribe.
You know what? I think we're gonna be friends. Can everyone say hi to my friend? That's crazy. I just wanted to say thanks. I'm glad you came along, partner.